What is going on, guys? How's it going? Before I get started in this video, I just want to say that I filmed part of this a few months back, and a couple things came up in my life that preoccupied most of my time, but I'm really excited to put this up now, so I really hope you enjoy. I'm going to be going over the process on how I make my Red Hood helmets. This is something I've wanted to post on here for a long time. This has been a dream project of mine, so thank you for checking it out. Also, a couple of months ago, I switched over from selling on Etsy to starting my very own website. It's called Duffy Designs. It's going to be linked down in the description. I'm really excited about this. It just felt like the next step in taking my business further. Got some really cool stuff listed on there so far, like these Red Hood helmets, Deathstroke helmets, Red X helmets, Mysterio helmets, Nightwing batons, Daredevil helmets, and a lot more stuff to come. A couple new items I'm going to be listing soon are these customizable body armor sets that I'm really excited to launch, and then these detachable bow staffs that are super durable, really strong, and lightweight. Please go check it out if you're interested in anything that I might have. And without further ado, let's get on to the video. What's going on, guys? In this two-part tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how I made my custom Red Hood helmet. I'm going to go through the entire process of how I created it. I'm really excited to show you how this came to be. It's definitely been the dream project for me in terms of being a prop maker. Something I always wanted to offer. I always wanted my own take on a Red Hood helmet for people to have. Seeing it finished and, getting orders for them and seeing other people wearing them has been just a dream come true. So I'm really excited to show you the process of this. So the way I'm going to cover how I make my helmets is a two-part video series. This one is going to go over how the initial concept was created, like what designs I wanted to incorporate with the helmet, how the model was made, how I 3D printed it, finished it, got it ready for molding, and how I made the mold. And then the second part is going to go over casting the helmets, demolding them, trimming them, finishing them up, painting them, getting them all ready until we have the finished helmets here, which is really fun. The best part is painting them and making them look unique. I do offer different versions of them. I have a clean, glossy finished version right here. And my helmets have these vents on the side for better hearing and just overall ventilation when wearing the helmet so you don't get too hot. And then this one, which is my personal favorite finish, is a matte finish, matte or satin finish. This one has weathering to it, so it's a little more of a dulled red. I think this just picks up light very well in terms of photography and video. It doesn't have really harsh highlights or shadows on it. It just gives off this really nice, dulled, matted metallic look, and I just really like it. This one also has LED eyes installed, if you can see that. I think those just add that extra touch to the helmet to make it look kind of tech oriented and a little more expensive than it really is. So without further ado, let's get into it. So when I started to realize that I wanted to be a prop maker, I knew that a Red Hood helmet of my own design was something that I definitely wanted to offer. He's one of the most popular cosplay characters. There's always like new fan films going on with him. I love Jason Todd. His entire character arc is so interesting. My first introduction to Red Hood was in the animated film Under the Red Hood, which is still my favorite DC animated film that they've done. I think it's fantastic. Really gets the character right, and I love him. I love the aesthetic. It's just a guy in a brown leather jacket, some armor, and a red helmet. But there's so much that you can do with that aesthetically, like textures, finishes. Red Hood is a character that's gone through so many different looks in the comics, animated films, live action things. He's a character where it's really fun to play around with his look, because he has his classic look with the leather jacket, armor, and the helmet. Then you have Red Hood in the Outlaws, where he's got a whole different thing going on. If you look at like Arkham Knight, the video game, they went with a very minimalistic, very futuristic look with just a plain red face. I'm not really a fan of that, but that's just an example of, a different take on the character. Just little things that you can play around with, and then other people flip it 180 and you have a whole different aesthetic for him. He's just a really fun character to play around with. So with mine, I wanted some of those modern practical elements, but maintaining that classic comic look. So I started to sketch some ideas, and I came up with this mock-up. This is kind of basically what I ended up with, but with a few tweaks here and there. This is what I have. It still has that classic under the red hood comic style look with those classic lines in the face, but it has these vents on the sides so there's better airflow and hearing. Because as someone that's worn a red hood helmet at a convention, it gets hot. It's hard to hear, hard to see at times. You kind of just pop it on for pictures and then you take it right off. You don't really want to be walking around in it for that long because it's not that pleasant. So I wanted to offer some ease in a situation like that where you can still hear, the airflow is a little better, you can breathe a little better, it's a little more comfortable. I knew I wanted to have that. I took inspiration from like supercars and sports cars with the air intake vents on the side. That's what I kind of wanted mine to look like. So you get kind of that sports car look from the side. You can see the vents from the front. I just really liked it. I had never really seen it before on other helmets, and I thought it would be pretty unique to my own look. I also wanted carbon fiber on it. I think carbon fiber just looks really cool. I wanted to accentuate the black areas on the helmet, like around the eyes and the face lines and on the back plate, with some carbon fiber. It'll add some nice texture since overall the helmet is fairly smooth in its surface. There's not a lot of other textures going on, so I thought that would break it up really nicely instead of it just being black. And the way it catches the light, I just really like it. It looks really cool, really modern. Carbon fiber is kind of in right now, and again, I think it's something that sets mine apart from other people's. So I've been practicing a lot with modeling. I've gotten pretty good at modeling non-organic things like weapons, components, pieces like that, not armors like sculpted to specific parts of the body or helmets that are shaped like around a head. I've been practicing a lot with ZBrush and Blender, but I'm not quite there yet. But I really wanted this helmet done. So I reached out to a good buddy of mine. His name's Matthew Delacruz. On Instagram, he has one account here, but then his business / modeling commission account is right here. He modeled this helmet for me. It was an absolute pleasure to work with him. He's just a great guy. He took my concepts, my drawings, my ideas, and he worked with me. It was just a really pleasant, fluid experience. We got this thing modeled up real quick, and then it was up to me to just print it out, finish it, get some molds made, start casting these things. So I printed it in 2 parts, and it is 2 parts. There's the main helmet, and then there's the back plate. So these 2 pieces were the only components. Once I got everything printed, I developed a pretty good method of sanding. It's still not perfect. There's parts of it that I should have gone over a little bit more, but I want to launch a version 2 at some point so I can refine those things. I've developed a very good sanding method that I'm happy with, and I guess I'll just share that now. So I have the print. I'll go over it just once with 80 grit, and then I cover the whole print in Bondo spot putty. A lot of other prop makers do this. It gives you a really nice coating to get into all the crevices, and then I go over that once that dries with the 80 grit again and get that back down to mainly the 3D print. Then I do a coat of filler primer, then I wet sand with like a 120 grit, another coat of filler primer, go up to like a 200 grit, and so on and so on. I'd probably do like 2 more higher level grits of the sandpaper till I get a really nice smooth surface. Then I just sprayed it with a flat black primer to get a really nice smooth consistent look, and then I started to apply the carbon fiber wrap to the face lines. So getting this carbon fiber vinyl to work with me was very challenging. It was the first time I ever used it. I never wrapped like a car or anything like that where I've used it before, so this was the very first time, and it was a little bit challenging. Getting it into the eye area especially was very tricky to get it to really sit there flush and not curl out or like pop out of places, and then to get it to flow into the lines on the face was also tricky, because like this whole part is a separate piece, this is a separate piece, then the eye area, and then this is made up of like different sections, so it might have been broken off here, then I need another piece to get around the back and continue on. These little tiny skinny areas were very hard to kind of get the carbon fiber to line up in there. Then the back plate I wanted to have this intersecting look where they kind of go upwards like this and meet, and I really like how it looks, and I also think it really adds a nice, like I said before, a nice difference in texture compared to like this glossy red. I think it stands out really nicely, and it comes along the sides right there like that. That's something I really wanted. People add carbon fiber to their props and their helmets all the time. I had never seen carbon fiber added into those areas before, and I jumped at the idea because I thought it was really cool and unique, again, to what I had in mind. Once I got all the carbon fiber in place, it was ready to mold the helmet. So I used Rebound 25 from Smooth On. It's a really nice silicone rubber. I just kind of put the helmet into this little makeshift mold station where I put it on a little lunch tray and then built up this barrier around the helmet with like cardstock just to create a nice form for the rubber to go around to create a nice mold so there weren't lots of overhangs and weird things going on. So I poured the rubber on. I did like 4 coats of that. I did 1 coat where you just kind of paint it on with a brush to get it all into the little areas and crevices. Then you put on another coat similar to that. Then the 3rd and 4th coat you add a little thickening agent to, so it's a thicker paste. And then you kind of build up more of a consistent thickness all around for a nice strong rubber mold. Then you add registration keys, or I'd recommend it, and that just allows it to fit into the mother mold a lot easier, which is the hard shell that you put on after. You build up like a separating wall with some cardstock, which is really annoying. That's at least what I did. And then you wrap it in tin foil, and then you build up one side of the mother mold, let that dry, you build up the other side, and you make the part where they form along the top, along that dividing wall, you make that thick, and then you put like nuts and bolts through it so you can hold it together. So that way when you take the master out of the mold, you don't just have this floppy rubber piece. You have the mother mold to keep it in place and keep the shape of what you want to make a mold of. The way I did that was I used Plasti Paste from Smooth On. Probably won't use this again. I used it on my Daredevil helmet and then used it on this mold, and while it works, it's kind of messy. I'm probably going to use fiberglass on the next mold I make, because this stuff, you put it on as a paste, and then once it starts to thicken, you get like, if you're using a spatula or something, or like a popsicle stick, you'll get these little peaks that'll come off when you try to smooth it, and then when that dries, those become really pointy and sharp, and then it also just kind of has this oily texture to it once it dries, and it can chip off, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's a little flimsy. I probably won't use that again, but it did the trick and it works. So then once that dries, it's all done. You split it apart, you remove the rubber, you peel the rubber off the master being the original 3D print that was finished, and then peel that off, do some trimming on the rubber. Sometimes there's flashing or like little pieces that need to come off. Then you just put the rubber back into the mother mold and you're ready to start casting. It's really that simple. The entire process for making this is also documented on my Instagram, on one of my story collections. I have pretty much the entire breakdown of how I made this helmet. So go check that out, go follow me if you want to. I'm on here very often providing updates and just insight into what I'm doing in the shop. So follow me. It was really daunting and challenging at first, but the first time I ever made a mold was for my Daredevil helmet, so a lot of trial and error went into that process. So when it went into making the Red Hood molds, it was pretty simple. I kind of knew what I was doing, didn't really have any major like screw-ups or major headaches with trying to do stuff. Honestly, the hardest part was doing the carbon fiber. That took me a few days to really get right. There was actually a moment when I was putting the first coat of rubber onto the 3D print. The carbon fiber wrap above one of the eyes started to peel up and like some rubber got underneath it, and I literally like stood there for a minute and I was like, what do I do? I was free. I thought I ruined the entire thing. So I quickly like took, and all the while rubber is like dripping down the helmet. I got like a piece of paper towel and I quickly like wiped the underside of where the carbon fiber vinyl was peeling up, and then I took a little dot of super glue, put it on the 3D print, and then like smushed the vinyl down as hard as I could just to squeeze out any rubber that could have been underneath, and it did the trick. You can't even tell that anything happened there. It happened like right above this eye, and you can barely tell that anything looking weird there. There's a little bit of a different texture going on because some of the glue I think seeped out, but you literally can't tell. That was really the only oh shit moment for me, where I really thought I screwed everything up. But I was so pleased with how everything came out. I was so excited to start casting, and that's what we're gonna get into in the next video. I'm gonna do a lot of hands-on work and just show you how the helmets are made from that point forward. I'm really excited to do that. Please stay tuned for part 2. Thank you so much for watching. And this is Luke 101. Until next time.